Dzień dobry. In my previous video on the basic techniques of Polish Saber, I briefly demonstrated the 6-cut routine using finger mechanics. However, I did not give a detailed explanation of these actual techniques. Today I'll do that in this video, and I'll also conclude with some training tips that have been very helpful to me, and I hope they'll help you out too. Anyway, let's get to it, and I hope you enjoy. In previous videos, I've already discussed the very basic foundational building blocks which you'll need to know in order to perform this 6-cut sequence correctly. They are, of course, as follows: cutting with the fingers, the positioning of the wrist, or I'll go from the front here too, and the Molyneux. So once you've cut, to withdraw and prepare for your next cut. Now, if you understand and are able to perform these basic essential movements, then the 6-cut sequence should be very easy for you to learn. It's just a matter of actually using these elements in 6 different directions and the start and end positions of each stroke. So we'll start now with cut number 1. Cut number 1. Now, we begin with the blade resting on our shoulder. You can have it sitting above or resting. I prefer it resting, but each to their own. You basically have, as we've previously discussed in preparation to cut, you have your index finger and thumb closed, and your little finger is just resting, ready to squeeze. The wrist is bent out, the flat of the blade faces your opponent. Now this cut here is essentially the most common cut in all sword play. We're cutting diagonally across this way, basically from my right upper to my lower left, and you're aiming to hit your person just straight across here. So we squeeze and push out, and there's the cut. Now when we're squeezing and pushing out, make sure you push the way you're going. So basically you push down, how far down? Sometimes you can push it further down and drag it down to the shoulder, or you can just push a bit lower. It depends on the situation, but the hand does not go straight out this way here, because if I do this, I've missed. You are here, I'm cutting over there somewhere. I don't push way past here because I may miss you altogether. You're staying here, I might travel over the target. So I just push to my opposite side, and entirely on how big of a cut you want to make, how high or low the hand is. Now you can combine this with step in and pull down to have more power, but we're not talking about that today, we're just talking about the direction. So push across your body while squeezing and straightening the wrist. From the side, very simple. Here, we've cut. Now with Molyneux. So it rolls back and it comes to rest on our opposite shoulder. The wrist is folded again. We've returned to squeezing with the index and just having the pinky rest in here. So we've returned back to the same position of the finger cutting maneuver. So again, just basically squeeze and push, and we've cut. Our hand has crossed the line to the other side of our body. Our sword has struck the target and passed through it a little bit. Then we turn it over so our wrist is facing back to us, and return it to the opposite shoulder, and we've returned to the next cutting position. So one last time. So from here, squeeze and cut. Release the little finger and squeeze with the index as you turn it over and bring it back. So if we just make it a tiny bit quicker, we're doing that. We've brought it back. Once again, we're doing that, and we've brought it back. So the stay position at cut number 2, we have, again, everything is the same, we're just on the opposite side of our body. Our wrist is bent, we've got the index thumb locked up and the little finger just poised to go. And essentially our elbows tucked in. We are not doing this too much, not squeezing in too much. just a very natural, relaxed position. This should be very familiar for people who do stand-up fighting or punching or boxing or whatever. Usually have your elbow low and down. You don't walk towards someone with your arms out like this stiffly. So from here, we squeeze as we push out, and we push out back to the side we started on. So once again, squeeze, and we're cutting in this direction here, diagonally from the upper left to the lower right. So we've cut. Now the Moulinet is a bit more complicated here. So we let it roll back, and it stops here. So from this angle here, it's probably easier to see the Moulinet. We've cut, and then we roll it back to here. So it's the same movement. We've cut, and we're back to here. Now, this is another guard. This is a very good one for standing. You can start in a very defensive position. You've got this side covered. The tip is slightly forward. We're not standing like that. It is slightly forward of where the handle and your hand is. Basically, we have our wrist bent. We have our fingers set for the next cut. And the flat of the blade should be facing out. So once again, the same position is here. We squeeze as we cut out. As it goes through the target or draws down, we relax, turn the wrist over, roll it up, and we're back here, tucked and ready to go. This is also, you could ride your horse in this stance, but we're just talking about standing and fighting with the Saber today. So from here, cut, we've pulled it through, we've relaxed, and it's returned to this position here. One more time from the front, so like that. And we'll go diagonally, like that. So there you have it. Cut number 2. So in concert with one another, cut 1 and cut 2, that can be basically your main cross cutting sequence. So the 2 cuts diagonally, 1 and 2 from that way. That's a lot of time what is referred to as the cross cutting sequence. Cut number 3. Now the next 2 cuts are the uppercuts. These are significantly more difficult to understand and perform, and are regarded usually as a higher level of technique, as in someone who's very good can deliver very accurate, well-timed, brutal uppercuts, as in Eddie Thug can use the force of gravity to smash down on the opponent. Now, I'll get rid of the Saber just for 1 second. This first one, the cut goes from the lower right to the upper left. Now, we really reach out a bit with this one here to make sure the blade contacts the opponent. And the easiest way I've found and been taught to imagine this is, if you're uppercutting someone straight, not throwing an uppercut like this, a boxing style, and you're not swinging up like this, but you're pushing straight forward while turning the hand over like this. Almost imagine you're hitting someone under the chin with like your palm heel, with your fingers facing towards them, such as that. So from here, if you just push this way, that's essentially what we're doing. Now with the sword, the Saber in hand, if we squeeze and go from this shaped wrist to this shaped wrist, as we push up, that gives us the shape of the cut. So as we push up, we squeeze, and we've made contact here. Now, usually these cuts are the lower part of the body, the abdomen. Now, obviously if you catch them on the inner leg or groin, if you're going lower, or across the belly. But basically, rarely do you try and cut someone's head with an uppercut. Normally it's here like this. So we go there like that. Now, this cut here, I'll do it from the side. So we're pushing up and we cut like that. So we've cut like that. We allow it to roll up. I'm trying not to get the roof, and I just touched. Sorry about that. And we find this position here, resting the flat of the blade against the body. Now I can't really, I've got to be a bit careful here. This is a very nice sharp line. I don't want to touch any of these roof rafters. I'll stand a tiny little bit lower. So basically when you throw the uppercut like this, it rolls back to that same wrist position we're familiar with, and the fingers, the opposite of squeeze. So I'm starting here, sorry. Here, index finger and the thumb are tight. The wrist is bent out as we squeeze the finger and throw the wrist straight and push up. We basically cut and uppercut that way, and then we relax them again, turn the wrist over to basically this position we're familiar with. And now we're in another position where rather than being upon the shoulder for a downward cut, we're basically resting on the side of the upper arm with our wrist bent, our elbow in still. We're not doing this. We're still sitting everything behind this area of the sword. And there we are. We're beginning here for the next cut. So once again, this is kind of complicated. So we're starting here, point forward more than the hand, flat facing our enemy, wrist bent. As we just go for a palm strike up, we squeeze and then cut through, turn it, try not to touch anything if you have a low ceiling, and then we are back here. We've molinated back to the flat of our upper arm, like so. Alright, now we're ready to throw our second uppercut. This one goes from the lower left to the upper right. Now, personally, I find this one so much easier to throw than the last one. I don't know if you could tell or not, but this just, that movement still feels a tiny bit awkward. Never very confident with that one. With this one, I find you can get very clean cuts, and it follows on very well from cut number one. You can just pop straight up to an uppercut, so you can go from cutting downwards to up here rather than cross cutting. Sometimes you can mix it up. It is very, very easy to do. So once again, we've got our fingers ready to be squeezed. We've got our wrist ready to go, and the flat is against our upper arm. Now, in this position here too, you can start with it not making contact. All these you can start with them not making contact, and you can have those as different positions, that's fine. But we'll make contact today because I like that. It feels comfy. I want to hug this nice Saber shovel. It's very, very, very pretty. So from here, we basically squeeze and cut like that. And as we go up. So basically, all we're really doing is raising this hand. Now, you want the thumb pointing downward at the angle you are basically cutting at. So when you raise a hand, I'll try not to throw any naughty salutes up here, but as you cut up from here, essentially you don't want the hand flat like this, because from here the sword is not like this direction here. If we have if you think about where your thumb is, if your thumb points back that way, basically we're going to do that, which is more like we're throwing a hanging guard from here. If we're doing that, our thumb needs to be down. Also, you can't have your thumb facing up like that, because basically once you do that, you might just completely miss the target altogether. So the best way to think about is to have your thumb facing where the sword is coming from, and then you will always actually cut. You won't throw some kind of guard or completely miss. So I'll get rid of it for a second. So from here, You're not throwing with the thumb up like that, or you're not throwing the thumb facing backwards. Basically, throw like this. So you have your hand here, you squeeze and have your thumb pointing in the direction of the cut. That is, in my opinion, the easiest way to not make a mistake. Because if you do that, the thumb here is pointing to the cut. Straighten it, I've got the old thumb ring happening today. The cut has already hit the target and started to travel in. Now with this one, obviously you're going for lower areas, same as the other one, and is considered a higher level cut because anyone, like I said, will come over, and a lot of time, while time cuts, you can use footwork and come underneath their cut. There's many different ways to use these, and it's always considered to be a higher level to be very good with the uppercuts. So once again, I'll go from the side. From here, the tip of the blade is already fairly low. So as we squeeze our wrists and straighten, it's basically there already, and we're just pushing up. So when it's all together, it is very simple to throw this and get a very clean line straight into the target. So from here, very clean line. Just squeeze and throw, and then you morlane it, and then you end up in the opposite position with it again on your upper arm, not up on your shoulder like with cut one. So they're sort of here, but it's a very similar position to that same position. So from here, once again, I'm not going to try to get through. We're there, like that. So from here, we're there, ooh, that. From here, we're there. From here, we're there, like that. So it's very easy to get that cut right out there. I find this one bites very well. When I've been cutting some pool noodles, this one here is so much easier, very clean, very quick, crisp cut straight through the pool noodle. And then you've morlanated it back to this position and ready to form your next cut. So once again, super slow motion. From here, remember to keep your thumb pointed to where the sword is coming from, down towards the lower left. Squeeze and you've cut the target, and you've morlanated back, and you're putting the spine of the sword against your upper arm, just under the shoulder muscle, very close to it. And from here, once again, we're not doing this or anything weird. We've got it here in this position, and our elbow is not doing anything strange and hanging out. It is just relaxed, lowered, and ready to spring forward. Again, if you notice most of these cuts, this is another reason I love these cuts so much, it's not so much swinging the arm from the shoulder. You're doing more like punching. You're basically pushing straight out, and you're using the elbow in and pushing it, extending this way. You're not so much swinging at the shoulder. The elbow really does just shoot out in a very clean straight line, like a very, very well placed punch. Anyway, we've just got 2 more cuts to go. Alright, we're ready to do cuts 5 and 6. I've decided to group the last 2 together because they are both so similar. So we're in a position similar to the very first same position. We're not on our shoulder like this. We're beside our arm. We've got the spine of the blade, resting our upper arm or not, depending on your preference. So from here, all we're doing is we're squeezing. We've got our wrist cocked, our index and thumb looped, our little finger is pressing and ready to squeeze. So we're just squeezing as we throw our arm to the opposite side in a basically shoulder height or higher. Maybe you want to go for the old jugular. But that's all there is to cut in horizontally. So from here, if we keep our palm up and just punch straight across this way here, we are going to cut horizontally through the target. We're not swinging around like we're swinging a baseball bat. If you want to add more power, then you can throw the waist through as well. So this is the beauty of these strikes or these cuts. You are not swinging wildly then bringing it back. Most of the time you're pushing straight out and back and relying on turning the waist and the fingers and wrist to make the cutting motion. So we cut over here, like I said, we're not swinging around and through. We're basically just pushing from one side to the other straight, roll it over so you can see the back of your wrist, and bang. Back to that other position we done before, the number 4 uppercut. Flatter the blade, resting on your upper arm or here if you prefer, with a bit of room. Entirely up to you. I like the resting positions that we've already established. So we're basically just here, like that. So basically just push it out, bring it back. Our elbow's not out, it's back. And then from here, same thing. We squeeze, we've got our wrist already cocked, fingers looped, ready to squeeze. So we squeeze as we push it out. Here, now it should be more like a conventional punch, as in your hand is basically flat about here, almost like you're doing a karate punch or something. So from here, if we push straight, we're going to miss our target in front of us. We're not swinging around because depending on where they come, you might even be like, you know, missing them and hitting them with the handle. So from here, we're just pushing straight. Our blade just swings through from that direction and hits the target. So we're like that, and you can return to the original position if you like, or you can mix and match, it's up to you. So once again, we've finished cut number 4. We're pushed across, back, so just out and back that side, now out and back that side, and we're good to go. So from the side, we're just struck out, we're back here, struck out, we're back here to the starting position or any other position you like, and that concludes it. So out, here, out, 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 back, out, and back, like that. So that is essentially the 6 cut pattern. So it's cut 1, I'll go through I guess slowly from the diagonal. So cut 1, withdraw, opposite shoulder, cut 2, Molyneux it up to this position, cut 3, back to this shoulder here, cut 4, back around, spine here on your upper arm, cut 5, straight across, back, cut 6, straight out, Molyneux it, and come back to where we started from. Now you can have your hand in your pocket, on your waist. I often do this sort of, fighting style, empty-handed method, having it close by. Just don't leave it hanging out where it's likely to get cut. And that is how we perform it. So one last time, get ready. And this, I hate to repeat myself, but every single cut starts with this position which we've already worked on. You make this, you squeeze the fingers and straighten the wrist as you cut, then you roll it and bend the wrist back as you Molyneux, suck the arm back in, and you're back to this starting position for the next cut. It's literally like I said at the start, you have these 3 building blocks, squeeze the fingers, straighten the wrist, Molyneux, back, and then repeat. That's it, we're just cutting from multiple directions. So 1, cut down and across, back up, 2, Molyneux to here, 3, back up, I'm trying to get the roof, 4, lovely cut, I love that one, spine on the upper arm, 5, back this way, 6, Molyneux it, and return to the original position. Now I'm going to give you a few tiny little tips which have been very helpful to me, and I hope you find them helpful too. Okay, tip number one. Now, if you have a very nice sharpener like I do, I actually have a number of nice ones, it's probably not a good idea to use them in your day-to-day training. The reason being is that no matter how diligent you are with cleaning, the sweat from your hand is going to degrade and basically dirty up the metal very quickly. If you have one with a nice leather grip, you might wear that down and loosen it if you are just swinging it every single day or have it often you train. So if you're not going to use one of your good ones every day for practice, what should you use? Now, some people suggest having a cheaper one that's roughly the same weight and balance is a good idea. Other people say have a lighter training sword. Some people say have a heavier object. Now, that is a school of thought I personally subscribe to. I have, for my day-to-day, just practicing, just doing a few exercises to keep the wrist active, I use a bar which weighs considerably more, but not a ridiculous amount more than the shoveler. The shoveler, I believe, is about 900 grams, give or take. This is close to 1.5 kilos, so it's a bit heavier, and it is definitely not balanced. There is no distal taper on steel pipe. It is slightly longer as well, and I'll get to that in a moment, but if you even just practice, you don't have to go as fast as you can. You practice your fingers, practice your wrist with something a little heavier and unwieldy. It forces you to engage your muscles, and then basically once you pick up a beautifully made shoveler, it just flows very nicely through your hand. This is a way of building a bit of strength, and also it's a way to really just make sure you're fully engaged in controlling the weapon by having something so unwieldy. So you can practice your 6-cut sequence with steel pipe in hand, and if you do it properly, you basically can do it with a very well made saber very easily if you practice with something which is not very well made. Now, I prefer to grip it like this because that's basically closer to the length of a shoveler than if I hold it down here. That is significantly longer, and I have the roof to think about both here and inside. But I feel this also has use, having the bit protruding from the bottom. Now, you wouldn't have that with a training replica or with a real shoveler, but on this, now if we think just about cut number one for a moment, so you've cut and then you moulinet, this I think helps you cleanly get your moulinets, because if you do something really silly with the wrist, so if you cut and then you do something like this where you're collapsing your wrist while moulineting, you'll very quickly tie yourself up with this end. So rather than cut in and turn it over very cleanly like that, if you do some stupid thing where you're lazy with a moulinet, you're going to catch yourself with this protruding end very quickly. So it basically, I feel it helps correct your form a little, having that you have to cleanly moulinet as well as control something a little bit unwieldy, such as this heavy pipe. So to me, this is very helpful. If other people like this idea or do similar, it'd be great to hear. But yeah, so swing pipe to make stronger and engage muscle, and have a clean moulinet after every single strike is tip number one, as silly as it sounds. Alright, tip number two, we're going to do what's known as pal work. A pal is basically a post that's usually in the ground, and you strike it to develop speed and power. Sometimes they're wrapped in rope, sometimes they're square, sometimes they're round. I've never really owned one. I might make one in the future, but for now I'm going to use punching bag, and I know many people have access to punching bag. Now, if you don't have a paddle or a punching bag, then you can go out to the park and hit a tree, provided no one's going to get suspicious about while you're doing it. But for now, my punching bag's in a sorry state. I have the straps holding up because I kicked it one too many times, and all the support ropes on it broke, so maybe you've got a nicer one than me. Anyway, we're going to hit it with a stick. Now, why stick instead of steel bar? Well, we're practicing speed and power here, and basically if you use the steel bar, you're cheating a bit on power, because since it's heavier, it's going to dig in and hit harder naturally. And also, if you have a nicer bag than what I do, it is going to do a lot more needless damage to that bag. A second reason to use a stick rather than your steel bar when hitting the bag is also because it is a bit flexible, especially if you got one like this. This is waxwood. It is an offcut from a Chinese staff or spear or three-sectional staff, I cannot remember. But basically, it flexes as it hits, as do most pieces of wood, depending on what, variety of timber. Now, the steel bar doesn't, so as you hit it with the steel bar, you're going to get a jarring vibration in your hand from each and every shot, which over time I think accumulates to do some damage to your nerves or whatnot. I'm not a doctor, but that's what I've been told. So basically you greatly minimize this jarring effect using a stick, because just that little bit of give, it definitely, even you can, I don't know if you can hear that, but like it vibrates as it makes contact. It doesn't just, it's not just boom and then your hand vibrates. The end which strikes will take up a bit of that vibration. So basically you can practice any stroke in any combination onto your punching bag, paddle or tree or light pole or whatever it is you're hitting, as long as it's not another person, I hope. So basically you hit with power every single shot from the 6-cut sequence. You can use them all in sequence, or just work at one or two of them at a time. Now, the trick here is to actually use proper technique. Do not, now that we're using speed and power, become undisciplined and just wail away like this as hard as you can. That defeats the purpose. You should be able to push my hand from here to here, just like I said, and deliver the blow as hard as possible using the squeeze and the folding of the wrist back like that, and my hand is here, it's not all the way over here. I push straight, I didn't like swing like a maniac. Likewise the other side, I've hit here, so you can practice that again. Hit here, so hit 1, 2, turn it over, 3, 4. So that's such a good one. You get such power with that shot if you basically just squeeze and throw straight up and over with your thumb pointing the direction they cut. You really do. That one, I especially like that uppercut. Or side to side, very easy. I'm pushing over here. I'm not swinging like a baseball through. I'm basically still pushing back, simply because it may seem more powerful if we start doing this. But who are we going to hit? That might get someone, that might not, because they'll see it coming. So you can practice just slightly at first, getting the basics of it, and increase the power as you see fit, and work up a bit of a sweat, just wailing away on the bag, as long as you do it in a well-disciplined way. So anyway, those are my 2 training tips, and like I said, I'm no expert. I'm just like a very enthusiastic practitioner, and take and leave it as you will, but anyway, until next time, do widzenia, and I hope you've had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's.